I'm doing lab number 9 today, so I already have the first few steps done because my phone ran out of storage when I started recording, and so we didn't get any of the footage, so I'm graciously being recorded on my friend's phone now, and so I already have a few of the steps done. This is the isopropyl alcohol. I have 1 centimeter in my beaker, and on my sheet of paper it looked like this. I measured a line parallel with the bottom, 1 centimeter above it, and then I drew dots for red, green, yellow, and blue, and I placed dots of the dye on those pieces of paper. And so I just have that rolled into a cylinder and stapled, and I have it in my solvent, which is isopropyl alcohol, and it's already been in here for a couple minutes, and so I'm just going to go ahead and take it out because it doesn't really look like anything else is happening. And so I'm going to undo the staples and lay it out, and I am going to begin measuring. So I'm going to start with the yellow dye because it's at the top of the chart, and I'm going to measure from the dot up to where it stopped. So, which is 1.01. And now I'm going to measure from the bottom of the paper up to the top of the solvent, which is the isopropyl alcohol, which is 1.9 centimeters. And next I'm going to do the blue dye because that's next on the chart, and so I'm going to start from the dot and go to the top of where the blue goes, and it is 1.27 for the dye. And now I'm going to do the solvent. So I'm going to go from the bottom of the page up to the highest point, which is 2.54 centimeters for the solvent. And next I'm going to do the red dye. So from the point .76 centimeters for the red dye, and now I'm going to do the solvent, which I'm going to measure from the bottom again, and 1.78 centimeters. And lastly, I'm going to do the green dye. So .01 centimeters, and the solvent. So 1.52 for the solvent. So now I'm going to pour this out, and I'm going to make a mixture of half water, half isopropyl alcohol. So let's see, I'm gonna add half the alcohol. That will be right under the line, so perfect. And I'm going to do the same thing, so roll this up and make sure that the edges don't touch. And I'm gonna just put an A on this so I know it's the alcohol solution. So I'm gonna staple this, and the two ends and the middle, just like that. And now I'm going to insert it into my solvent, which is the water and the alcohol. So I'm going to get this one out of the way. And I'm going to cover this to make sure that nothing escapes, and just going to hold that down. And so for the isopropyl alcohol, I'm going to calculate my RF. So I'm going to do the spot distance divided by the solvent distance. So for yellow, I'm going to do 1.01 divided by 1.9, which is 0.53. And for the blue dye, I'm going to do 1.27 divided by 2.54, which is 0.5 exactly. And the red dye, 0.76 divided by 1.78, which is 0.43. And the green dye, I'm going to do 1.01 divided by 1.52, and I came out to 0.66. Okay, so now I'm going to kind of check on this, and it's not really like moving up much. I'm gonna make this like thicker. The dots are somewhat bleeding. The blue is definitely bleeding. I feel like it's kind of shooting up by where the staples are for some reason, but everywhere else it's pretty level. It is above the line that I drew, and I would say that the dyes are pretty even with the line. They're not lagging behind, except for the yellow maybe. They're pretty much just right there with it. So I'm just gonna give it another minute and get ready to record it. I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm just gonna lay it out flat and measure from the point to the top of the dye, and then the bottom of the paper to the top of where the solvent went up to, and the solvent is of course the water and isopropyl alcohol half and half mixture. So I'd say it's like a centimeter above the line. Yeah, it doesn't really look like anything else is happening much. So I'm just going to go ahead and remove it, and I'm going to take out the staples, and I'm going to lay it flat on my paper, and now I'm going to measure. I'm going to start with yellow and measure from the dot to the top. Point 64 centimeters, and dye. And then now I'm going to do the solvent for yellow. .93 for the solvent for yellow. And going down to blue, doing the dye. .02 centimeters dye, and the solvent, which is 2.03 centimeters solvent. And the red dye, .84 centimeters for the dye, and the solvent, 1.88 centimeters solvent. And lastly, I'm going to do the green. So starting with the dye, .76, and the solvent,
2.28 centimeters. So now I'm going to do the RF again for this mixture. So I'm going to do yellow first, so 0.64 divided by 1.93, which comes out to 0.33. And blue, so 1.02 divided by 2.03, 0.5. And red, 0.84 divided by 1.88, 0.45. And green, so 0.76 divided by 2.28, which is 0.33.